Hey guys, what is up? It is the Fast Break Report here, bringing you guys another vlog. So I wanted to talk about the Montrezl Harrell signing by the Philadelphia 76ers because I feel like it's a little bit of a finesse. And at the same time, I also want to talk about how this affects the Charlotte Hornets because, well, they're a team that's just getting the short end of the stick everywhere they fucking look, it seems. So first, let's just talk about the signing by Philadelphia. If I'm correct, it's a 2-year deal worth, I think, $5.2 million. I could be wrong, but I want to check it out just to be sure. So NBA, I'm just seeing if there is, all of this stuff is like, overseas news. So yeah, the 76ers are signing Montrezl Harrell to a 2-year deal where it's worth $5.2 million. Now, a lot of people might be asking, like, this is really cheap for Montrezl Harrell. Why did he sign with the 76ers for so cheap? This is kind of a low-risk, high-reward play by the 76ers. I want to say that. Montrezl Harrell is a very good player. Was in 6th Man of the Year running when he played for the Clippers. Was a solid player for the Lakers. Wasn't, as good as he was on the Clippers for the Lakers. But he's still a solid player nonetheless. And the 76ers now have a backup center behind Joel Embiid, a guy who is serviceable, to say the least. And a lot of people might be asking why the deal is so cheap. So the first thing is, in case you guys don't know, Montrezl Harrell got arrested on felony marijuana charges back in June. And the good thing is, though, he is a resident in North Carolina. So as long as he keeps his residency in North Carolina, Montrezl Harrell should be, I don't want to say cleared of all charges. He's going to pay some type of fine, but because he got popped for having like 3 pounds of weed on him, okay? It wasn't like a small amount. It wasn't like an ounce or anything. It was 3 pounds worth. And the truth is, okay, I don't know if this is the first time he's ever been arrested for it. I'm assuming that it is. And if that's the case, he's not going to get 5 years in jail. It's just not going to happen. The idea that he is an NBA player, he played for Charlotte, it's just the idea. The 76ers are kind of unsure what's going to come out of this. So I feel like that's why the deal is so cheap. However, even if he, let's say he gets suspended for this entire year, they're still getting him next year for what, 2.2 million, you know what I'm saying? Or something in that ballpark, 2.1 million. You know what I'm saying? It's just, at the end of the day, it's a really, really good signing for the 76ers. It's, okay, maybe something happens, he gets suspended for the entire year, he doesn't play this upcoming season, but the following season after that, he is going to be able to play for them, I would assume. I'm going to also assume he's going to be able to play this season just because I'm assuming this is his first time ever being arrested for this. It's the first time I've ever heard of it, so I'm pretty positive this is his first time ever being arrested on marijuana or drug charges, and usually North Carolina's pretty lenient with marijuana charges. Usually first-time offenders don't get jail time. They usually get some type of fine, or the charges get reduced. And I feel like that's why the 76ers signed him, is because there's a very high likelihood that happens. So, I love the pickup for the 76ers. I think Montrezl Harrell is going to be great for them. I love the idea that they're kind of trying to bolster their bench a little bit because, if I'm being honest, man, their bench was pretty ass last year. You had James Harden, you had Joel Embiid, and Tyrese Maxey, and that seemed to be where the train stopped for the most part. Yeah, they still had Tobias Harris, but Tobias Harris makes an insane amount of money for a guy who, only during the second half of the season or even during the playoffs, it seemed like he came alive. So I'm not quite sure what that whole situation is going to be, but they did get, I think, what's his name? DeAnthony Melton or something like that from the Grizzlies, if I'm correct. And now they also got Montrezl Harrell. So it's nice to see they're trying. They're trying to put something around James Harden and Joel Embiid. So I can appreciate that. When it comes to the Charlotte Hornets side of things, I'm just going to be honest. The pressure's on Mark Williams this year. I understand, I'm not going to lie, I expected the Pacers to have, the worst record in the East this year. I'm starting to think it's going to be Charlotte. Mostly because at least the Pacers still have Buddy Hield. They still have Tyrese Halliburton. Jalen Smith looks like he's coming into his own. They still have Miles Turner. Chris Duarte is a very good player. When you look at the Charlotte Hornets, it's like they have, who do they got? Gordon Hayward, who is injury prone. They have LaMelo Ball, who's very good. Eventually, one day, probably going to be an MVP caliber player. I think he's going to be. But they now have Mark Williams on their roster, and not having Montrezl Harrell and the idea that Miles Bridges is going to be most likely sitting out this season, or like that situation is just a complete gray area. And I feel like I've said in a previous video about the Miles Bridges situation, it seems like there's no way Miles Bridges comes out of this without some type of suspension. Like, there's a reason he's a restricted free agent, and Charlotte hasn't given him an offer yet. Like, there's a reason for that. And I have a feeling that what's going to happen with Miles Bridges is he's going to accept the qualifying offer that Charlotte has extended to him and accept that and see what happens. The Charlotte Hornets are smart not to jump into this if he's going to be, they're smart not to waste their salary cap on a guy that might not play this upcoming year. So I feel like Miles Bridges is just going to play on a qualifying offer, and that's why other teams aren't extending offers to him. It's because, yeah, you could lock him in for 4 or 5 years and sign him to an astronomical amount of money, but, you'd be forcing Charlotte to match it, but who knows if Charlotte would even match it at that point. If they're going to be a shitty team this upcoming year, they could get another wing in the draft. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe get, Victor Wembanyama if they play shitty enough. It's just like, the thing is, no matter what happens, if it involves Miles Bridges, it's probably not going to turn out the way either team expects. If you're the Utah Jazz, for example, and you go all in on Miles Bridges, you're potentially going to pay $20-25 million a year, or at least the first year, for a guy who's not going to play. You know what I'm saying? And most teams don't want to take that salary cap hit, especially when they can draft a guy that doesn't have that shit around them. So there's that. The other thing here is the Charlotte Hornets also have James Bouknight. They also have Terry Rozier, who's not on the greatest contract in the world, but he's something. It's just I just feel like Charlotte isn't going to have enough to be better than a team like the Pacers. I just don't. When you look at, Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier is a good scorer, but he's not a good defender. James Bouknight's a giant question mark at this point. He looked good in preseason last season when he was drafted, but, he didn't really play during the regular season. Mark Williams is still a rookie. He's a good rookie. He's a promising rookie, but he's, we still have yet to see what he's going to be and how he's going to adapt to the NBA game. So when it comes to Charlotte, man, they kind of got the short end of the stick here. They're not bringing back Montrezl Harrell. Miles Bridges is out. They're relying on guard play, essentially, to get them wherever it is they're going to go. I really feel like they're going to be a, bottom 10 team in the Eastern Conference. I feel like there's not a cold chance in hell Charlotte makes the play-in, if I'm being honest with you. I don't think that's possible. But the Pacers are probably not going to make the play-in either, just throwing that out there. But I do think the Pacers will be the better team. So, I don't know, man. Charlotte did sign LaMelo Ball, or not sign LaMelo Ball, but they drafted LaMelo Ball. And I feel like if they want to keep LaMelo Ball there in Charlotte, the Mark Williams pick was good, but they're going to have another good draft this upcoming year if they're going to keep LaMelo Ball interested. Granted, he's a restricted free agent, and Charlotte is going to match any deal he gets. He's locked into Charlotte for a while, but you don't want to have a disgruntled young star on your team. And LaMelo Ball is I think he's a generational talent, if I'm being honest. He's, 6'7", 6'8", and plays point guard very well. He's fun to watch. He puts asses in your seats. So I think he's a guy that you should definitely, when his payday comes, you pay him, and whatever he wants, you give it to him. So I don't know, man. We'll have to wait and see what this upcoming NBA season brings, but I like the Montrezl Harrell signing, and I feel bad for the Charlotte Hornets. It seems like nothing has gone their way, and they were, a young, exciting team last year for the most part, but now it's like they're looking to unload Gordon Hayward. if I were them, I would unload Gordon Hayward at any means. Like, if you're going to be bad, be really bad. You know what I'm saying? That's one thing I've always kind of been a fan of. Unfortunately, a lot of fans don't agree with that logic. But if you're going to be a shitty team, you might as well get a good draft pick out of it. You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of Pacers fans specifically and a lot of other NBA fans are like, they should go out there and give 110% every night. Okay, that's fine. I agree with that. But, you know, if you're going to be bad, you might as well be bad, like really bad. And that 110% should probably come from your bench players, not your starters. You know, I just feel like, you know what, give them a chance to develop. Either way, you're improving. That's why I don't understand why people are like, oh, well, the team should look to win. Well, there is such a thing as a rebuilding team. And there's a lot of teams in the NBA that are still doing that. And I feel like if you're a team that sucks, you know, or you're not going to have a good season, put James Bouknight out there. You know what I'm saying? Put Kai Jones out there. You know what I'm saying? Put some of these guys out there and let them get some burn and become better players. You know, and whatever you do in the draft and the upcoming season after that, then you can say, now it's time to try and win some games. But for right now, it's not looking good for Charlotte. I feel like there's no chance they win a championship this year. So, you know, if you don't have a shot and you're not even going to make the playoffs, you might as well just be really bad. So, tell me what you guys think about this down below in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions on this. A like helps me out. Subscribe if you guys want to see more. I'm the Fast Break Report, and I'm out of this motherfucker. Peace, guys.